Everybody, I'm going to talk about solving with square roots today, and goes along with the worksheet. But a few things you need to know when you talk about these square roots. Okay, all quadratics have two solutions. So anytime you see x squared, a second power, an exponent of 2, then you're going to have two solutions. So that's important to note. And so when you do this worksheet, if you have one solution, you are most likely missing something. I put an asterisk here because you can have the same solution twice. And if you have the same solution twice, there's no really reason to write it down more than once. That's just like having one solution. But typically you'll have two solutions. Except if you have a negative number underneath the square root. So you have like a square root of -1 or square root of -16, there is no real solution there. So you just write no solution, okay? So no solution for negative numbers. And then the square root of a number and the square of a number are inverse operations. So when we solve, we use inverse operations. And, if you have +6, then you can -6 and it cancels. And it's the same thing. We're going to use square root and square to cancel. We're going to use square to cancel square root. We're going to use square root to cancel square. And then when you're doing long, complicated problems, you want to get the radical isolated first. You're going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide in order to get the radical alone with equal signs. You want like the square root of whatever it is equal to 12 or something, whatever it is. But before you square it, you need to get everything off here first. So let's do a couple problems. Okay, I'll just start off right here with number 2. And what I have is, it says that x squared is equal to 7. And so we're going to take the square root of both sides because the radical is the opposite of the square. So when you take the square root of both sides, the square and the square root go away, and you're just left with x. Okay? And then the square root of 7 is a decimal. You can write this two ways. You can say, x is the square root of 7. But there's two answers, okay? And that is, plus and minus. So there's +7 and -7. Or you can say it, +7, negative radical 7. Both of these are the same thing. And then you can also go to your calculator and get a decimal if you want. So if you do the square root, and you do shift square of 7 is 2.6. So it's over 2, less than 3. So you can say plus or minus 2.64. Whatever it is, you can round it. So either one of these solutions will work. Okay, so let's try another one here. Square root of 78. I'm sorry, r squared is equal to 78. And so square root, and they cancel. And I would recommend showing the canceling. So r is equal to positive negative root 78. Or you can use square root 78. 8.83. If you ask me what I prefer, I would prefer the radical answer, but there are some times where you need to put the decimal in order for the computer program to take it. But in general, when we move forward, you need to be comfortable with this as an answer. This is the same thing, and this is correct, this is correct. We're gonna definitely use this more in the future, okay? All right, so what about this? This is our crazy case, the square root, both sides, x squared is equal to, x squared is equal to 0, so square root both sides, and single x is equal to plus or minus 0. The square root is 0, 0, so just, it's 0. This is a case right here where we're not ready to square root. You can't square root the whole thing. That would not be very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 4 across to both sides. We're going to get n squared is equal to 81. And then now we're ready to square root both sides. So n is equal to the square root of 81. And what is the square root of 81? If you can simplify it, do it. It's either positive 9 or it's negative 9. So negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. And positive 9 times positive 9 is 81. So both. All right, and then let's see. Let's do one down here. Okay. So right here, this is 10 times x minus 7 squared equals 440. And don't distribute the 10, and you don't want to distribute the 10 because that breaks PEMDAS. This is x minus 7 squared, and you have to square it first and then distribute the 10. Remember, exponent before multiplication. So because this is 10 times this quantity, I would divide both sides by 10. And that leaves me with x minus 7 squared is equal to 44. And then I'm going to square root. The whole thing here is squared, and so you can't add 7 to get it out. Basically, the whole number is squared. This x minus 7 represents one number. So we're going to square root both sides. That's going to cancel off these, and that's going to leave, I'm going to bring this over here. That's going to leave x minus 7, because the only thing that was canceled off is the square. And then this is equal to the square root of 44. Well, this is just plus or minus the square root of 44. And then I can simplify this, and we're going to talk about simplifying this later. But in order to finish this off, I'm going to add 7. And that's going to leave x. So now I have x equals, this is this x right here. Right, now I have x by itself is equal to plus minus root 44, and then I added 7, so I'm just going to add 7. Now, you can leave this as an answer. This is totally 2 answers, okay? There's really nothing wrong with this answer. If you want to know what this kind of looks like, this would be like the square root of 44 plus 7 is 13.63. 13.63. And then the negative version of the square root of 44 plus 7. And that gives, I don't know why I hit subtract, 0.3667. So 0.37. So there's my 2 answers. So you can either write it as this or you can write it as this, okay? And then this one is probably the pinnacle. Follow PEMDAS. You got multiplication here, but you also have minus 5, so I'm going to add 5. And then this is going to be 228. And then this is 4 times 6x minus 1 squared. Then this looks like just like number 18, so we're going to divide off the 4. So divide by 4, and then I got 6x minus 1 squared equals 228 divided by 4 is 57. And then square root both sides, and I've got sticking right there. All right, I've got 6x minus 1. This and this cancel, and that's equal to plus minus the square root of 57. And then I need to add 1, I'm going to add 1, and then I'm going to divide by 6. And then that is your answer right there. This is two answers. This is the positive square root 57 plus 1 divided by 6, and this is the negative square root 57 plus 1 divided by 6. Now, if you are uncomfortable with this big jumbled mess as an answer, don't feel alone, because a lot of students are going to feel uncomfortable with this being a number, but we need to start being comfortable with this being a number. In fact, it's two numbers. But there's nothing wrong with this, right? You are not always going to be able to simplify this. I mean, you could put it in a calculator. I mean, certainly, if you want to, you can do the square root of 57. What was it? Plus 1, and then divide that by 6. And that gives you 1.42. Sorry, my calculator screen is messy. So this is 1.42, and then you would do the same thing again with the negative square root 57. So I mean, this is a number right here, but at this point, I want you to be okay with stopping and saying, hey, this is my number. If you want to take that extra step and get the decimals, then, by all means, if it makes you comfortable, then great. So that's how to do it, and hopefully I covered everything. Just remember, you're always going to have two answers. As we saw, most of the time it's just positive, negative. And then if you square root a negative number, you got no solution. And then the way to cancel off a square is using a square root. And then get the square root isolated first. That means you might have to use some algebra, adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing to get there. So hopefully that helps. Have a good one.